Well, thank you very much, Sonia. Wonderful work in building all this very nice collaborative learning scenario. We really feel, I was thinking, how would be my presentation? I will start by saying that we are travelers in the same track and pursuing the same goal, to make the difference for the families. Andy, this is for you. borrowing your your nice words. It is true. So some of us, we have lived more time, and then we have more experience, but I feel totally beginning, as a beginner, and that is good, because then you make me, I feel more skeptical on one hand, because you learn to be skeptical. I borrow now the words by Metin, but also, of course, you had some confidence that some things are getting clear to my mind, and in this case, I'm going to get inside, totally inside the implementation work. We are going to dig inside of what does it mean to work in a real world conditions. Because this is the kind of trials I like really most, the effectiveness trial, when you deal with the context, with the professionals, with flesh and bone situation, and that is great for us. So, and in my outline of this, of what I'm going to talk about today, is first a little bit, because I think that Metin did a wonderful work, just giving us the framework. What is implementation research? Of course, we have to talk about that, but what is essential also, and also what are the challenges? That's very a very brief interview, entrance, and then an example of implementation research in face-to-face programs. I choose this because it could be also interesting in the second to have an example of the implementation work in the online programs, and to see to what extent it is possible to do implementation work in both cases. So I will come to two cases of our own research, because I know them well, and I can get even into the statistical analysis, of course, very briefly. And then at the end, I came up with some conclusions that I want to share with you, and also who hope to receive feedback also from you. Well, what is implementation research, and why is it so essential? Well, I think it's a simple definitions about how well a program works, that is said many times, and how it's conducted and how it works in real life situations. That is the main starting point. You have these authors, but it can be others, but I like very much the Berkel et al., because it's a integrative model of components. And then why is it essential to have this kind of trials that are mostly effectiveness trials, if you see, but can be done also with efficacy trials. But I think it's more challenging in the case of effectiveness trials, because you have to deal with the fidelity, we have heard about that, and we have to study the quality with which the program has been applied, and also and to deal with all the complexities of the real world conditions. And just to tell you, I do not want to discourage you at all, but just to tell you that sometimes pre-post-test overall comparisons didn't tell you the interesting and meaningful things. Because in the pre-test, in the pre-post comparisons, you can say, well, yes, it's a good results, it increased such and such another has been decreased, but then I will ask, in what conditions? Can you tell anything about, or this is just like this in all the conditions we got? I think you cannot say, that would be too general. But if you say, no, it doesn't work, it can be not the case, because probably it doesn't work because you have chosen in specific conditions that is not good for the program. And then you say, well, you discount this program, but it's not a fair testing to say no or to say yes. So that's why we have to get into these complexities of implementation and to really have not the final word. You never have the final word, but get some ending. Well, why is so challenging? There are three reasons for why implementation research is so challenging, and the first one has to do with the amount of conditions to be measured. There is not, with the exceptions of Berkel and of course the original studies, there is not much a list of conditions that you trust really on them, because of course there is a sort of compromise with thinking of the importance of the context, the program itself, and the participants. But that is too general. We have to get into the components and to know more about the components itself, but there is a lack of consensus. It is a problem, because you see a lot of variability when you go to implementation research in the kind of components they have selected. And if you go to ICT programs, I look at my friend, then, well, that could be another word, another or quite different word. And the second reason I think it's important because there is a wealth of methods to be used. We can use video training of videos, just direct observation. We can have surveys, checklists. We can have interviews. We can have focus group. Now we go across the line of quantitative and qualitative measurement, and you have a lot of methods. But as you may see, there is not much research on reliability and validity of these measures. Few of them has been really presented as standardized instruments or reliable instruments. So this is a problem. Few are validated and study the reliability. And also because they need an additional cost. It's critical when you have to go into implementation work, you have to ask for more money, because it takes a lot to do all this rating, to analyze and to convince, then you have to convince your sponsors to pay more for that, to pay more. And you need also organizational support, because you know that many people should be mentalized to have and to perform this kind of job, or this kind of work. And so, but look at the sentence, poorly implementations programs, these are the ones that are very costly, because you waste money, resources, and you really have waste your time. And so you are in the middle of a dilemma. I have to do it because if I do not do it, then I cannot tell clearly about the validity of my program and the effectiveness of my program. But on the same hand, on the second hand, you have to convince really your supporter that you need to do this kind of implementation research. In my experience, it's the kind of things that suffers more for the professionals, because they finally, well, they get along with the idea of measurement, speaking about implementations in which we have professionals doing the work. Well, they can understand that this is a huge problem with the evaluation. But that is even worse, because it involves daily-based measures along all the program, and that is costly and sometimes is tiring also for them, if you do not let them know what it's all about. So, and my main research question for all this talk today is, do the implementation components and face-to-face and the online programs or web-based programs work equally well in predicting outcomes when we are taking measures of the implementations? And that is the specific topic that I will try to develop with two examples, as I say. The first example in a face-to-face program, and the second example in the web-based program. And the first one is Growing Up Happily in the Family, Crecer Felices en Familia. I will tell you, it's a face-to-face program. It has two modalities, group and home-based, but here Our measurement is about the group part, and this program is used in family preservation services, but I will tell you more about. And then the positive parent, which is embedded in a website that we developed. And this is the first one. You think growing up happily in the family. This can be considered a multi-site, but also multi-setting program. And that is interesting because it's not only held in many places around Spain, but also not only in social services, but also in the school settings, in primary school settings, and also in NGOs. And that is good. Most of the cases is presented for families at risk, but for trying to avoid the fact of trying to avoid marginalizations of these families while they receive the intervention. It's always a dilemma, how to deliver information that is useful for this family, but trying not to marginalize them because they are using this intervention. And so we have community families and also families that come to the family preservation services in the municipalities. It's in many places of Spain. We are the developers in the University of La Laguna and also University of Las Palmas, which is another island in front of this, which are the main universities, public university in Canary Islands. And this, I mentioned, is targeted to parents from 0 to 5 years old. And also they have a group version with 22 sessions and with 2 hours every sessions every week. And then we have the home-based session. In this case, it's more targeted at routines and changing of the daily life and creating new situations with daily schedules and family lectures, etc., etc. But my study now has to do with the group 1. And then now, because I think that this program has been designed in 2009, now it's a long time, I don't think that the program can persist such amount of time without refreshing the contents. Because at least in my case, I found it impossible to have a 40 years program unless you are concentrated only on techniques. But even in this case, I found it a little bit ambitious to try to have your program all over the years. So just imagine just exclusively the topic of, for instance, digital parenting. There is nothing in the prior programs to have what is meant about digital parenting in both aspects. How parents can use and can perform effective searching of educational contents, and in the other science of how to regulate a child's behavior from 0 years old, because you see the tablets and the mobiles used with very babies almost. So we are just creating a new program, well, let's say not new, that the whole, but with these all new things, and also including diversity, more examples of family diversity, because here in the forefront of the program we put the mother, like if the mother were the only ones that can take care of the children. And now with the full explosion of family diversity, at least in Spain, you need more illustrations, because we use a lot of illustrations here. And so now we are facing a big effectiveness trial in the town hall in Madrid. And this is the 5 modules that are with the program before doing these nights. It has to do with 5 modules with different components, as you may see. The first one has to do with attachment relationships. It is the typical component of sensitive and positive parenting and responsive parenting that involves also the types of attachment, consequences of the types of attachment, even something related with the temperament of the child, etc. Then coming to know your children. That has to do with getting deep inside in a more Vygotskian, let's say, framework related to how to stimulate your child and placing yourself in your zone of proximal development. I mean, keeping up with the timetable of the child and not going with a schedule too far or too in the back. So going at the pace or a little bit farther than the child development. That is very important. And how to create stimulating atmospheres and scenarios for the child. Because not only we have to deal with socialization, we have to deal also with the stimulation. How to create scenarios at home that could be enough challenging and enough stimulating the child development. And then we go into the typical in all parenting programs, the part of the norms and limits. But we try to do not only techniques, but embedded these techniques in the context of the goal, of the educational goals that the parents are pursuing, because it's not the same to have a parent who pursue discipline and to pursue obedience overall. If they pursue this kind of goal, then all the things you are teaching, it becomes under this umbrella and can distort the right way to use this technique. And so it's important to get into the goals. Of course, here are also the ideologies, the family ideologies in terms of child-rearing issues. And that is the very typical topic, but it can be tackled in a more ample way. I like, for instance, here to distinguish between the kind of techniques that goes to support the hetero regulations and the ones that help the self-regulation in the child. Because we do not want the children that just obey. We do want children that becomes more self-regulated in their own development. And this can be improvised when they are 8 or 10 years old if they are not living this kind of environments. But then it's also interesting to go into the first family-school relationships. The school is not only for relief the parents' pressure. And many parents think that at that time it's very easy to teach. This is not the case. It's really very difficult because the baby, of course, is open to the world, but the brain is fully functioning. And you know that there are a lot of neurological researchers that say that the babies consume a high metabolism of sugar, especially in the brain processing. So it's not the case that it's a totally empty box, not at all. And you need specialized people that know how to stimulate without over-stimulating and without running out with the brain resources. So first family school relations also helps how to make a better proposal for the family, for the parents-teacher relationship at these ages, which is also a very nice thing. And then it becomes the idea of parenting as a solitary task. So it's a matter of just being on myself, raising a child, or what about the social network that is around me? And now we can include also the internet network and the online supporters that we have. So these were most or less, but the materials were presented in vignettes, in case studies, using illustration, guided fantasies, which is a kind of mentalizing exercise, which is very nice to think of yourself being someone else. And also games, group discussions, I mean, different formats, because you have to engage the parents and to get them not only discussing, verbal discussions, but to include a more diversity into the topics. And then the trial, I'm going to explain, it was 196 participants, of course taken from several places, and it wasn't from I would also only explain about the intervention group, because it's the one who got all these measurements of implementation. And there were 26 groups in this study, and there were 76% quite an amount of them coming from the families at risk, but you may see the rest coming from the community families. And of course, the facilitators were all these kind of practitioners in the social services, at the schools, NGOs, and received at the beginning 25 hours. And then in the middle, they have also a supervision part. And then at the end, we give them the results of the program. And that is a very nice moment to get, for instance, some implementation measures coming from the group discussions, for instance, once they see the results. So the question in particular is, what implementation components predict positive outcomes? And in this case, we decided to get a big list. Well, it's not fully, but it's quite okay. It's 11 scores, I will tell you, 11 measures. We follow a hierarchical regression analysis because we want to see what adds one steps to the others. And we put totally intended to do that as a last step to see how much variance it captured. We put results of a focus group on barriers. I will let you know more about. And we did in this study, we did this with one outcome that was, of course, you know very well, the parenting stress index. But we did it also with two other outcomes that has parental attitudes, Babolect parental attitudes, which are parental attitudes and child ready. That is very nice in these early ages. Is only for these early ages. And we got significant results in the regression models in terms of 18% of the variance and 21% of the variance, which is quite okay. But look at, for instance, the outcome for the regression pre-post parental sense of competence. That is a nightmare for me, always this measure, because in this case, were not significant at all, any connections. So you learn that not all the outcomes should be related with the implementations, but don't worry if some other still are able to present some relationships, right? So that is the idea. And of course, we got measures of pre-post test change scores. Well, here are the kind of indicators we got. For instance, adherence. We got the typical dosage, the typical duration of the sessions. Durations of the sessions were considered the 2 hours as a good thing, but if it came earlier or shorter or longer, then it has another categorization. Don't worry, because these categories are usually accumulate from sessions. So then you do not have just a categorical 0-1. At the end, you have cumulative scores because you got all of this for every session. Well, not the first one, because dosage you know from in advance. Then you have adaptations. That is recommended, to have the number and type of adaptations. Type of adaptations mean, are the core elements? Of course, you have to tell in advance what does it mean, core elements, and are secondary or superfluous, not critical, not important changes. So imagine that means that there is a checklist that takes all these measures in every session. The practitioners put in and report, they put the kind of changes that have been made, and we categorize after that. Then there is the kind of quality of delivery. That is very important. What about the materials? Were considered as nice materials? For instance, the drawing, all the exercises, all the things. Material resources, this time in a 0 to 5 scale into the same checklist. Then the goal, they were clear, the goals of these activities. Was it clear? Was it clear also all the developing of the activity? Was it clear for the practitioners, or we really had to to look for another information because it was not clear in the manual, because these kind of things are in the manual. And also, to what extent the objectives of the sessions are reached. You can tell, imagine, after the session, you stay for a while, and you have to put all of this. Then, the group responsiveness have to be rated this time for the parents. They have to say to what extent they have been in a group with good participation, with interest, really interested in the topics. Also, there was a positive climate in the group, a good cohesion, and the satisfaction of the parents. And finally, that was the most novelty part of this study, was that after, in the last delivery of the program, when we present the results, we took apart the professionals, and we did some work in grouping or discussion groups, and we explained about, or asked them about the difficulties that they have experienced. And then you will see, now I do not see here the results, but you will see in the final regression model that which kind of, what is the importance of these perceptions of the professionals. Because you see perception of the parents, but this perception of the parents of the barriers that they have experiences in the implementation is very important. Oh, sorry, I didn't say before that we had, in addition to the parenting stress index, we got also the attendance rate as a dependent variable. The other ones were as a regressor, and the other ones were. So, and that was the result with the attendance rate. The result was not just for you say wonderful, because it's 0.15. Well, it's okay, but well, it's a small contribution of the rest of the components to this attendance. So attendance are not supposed to be greatly compromised by the kind of the quality of the implementations. You say, well, what is that? Well, it's only two cases: participation, interest, and the barriers. Started to appear the barriers. The barriers were engagement, motivational barriers that it doesn't have any influence. Engagement barriers, where they got some problems in engaging the people to the program, but adaptation barriers. That means how well the program has found their way into the context, into the specific context. To what extent the social services or all the support around the organizational support has been okay. And the sign, of course, is negative in this case, right? Because it's when you perceive more barrier, this affects the attendance of the participants. And this has been taken at the end, but of course reflects probably the mental state attitude of the practitioners, having suffered a lot to get all the family inside the program and not letting out the program. Also organizational barriers, that means in the day-to-day organization of the sessions. Rushing with the materials, being late with the participants, or the participants coming later, all these kind of difficulties experienced, and also coordination barriers. That means more with the whole services, not the social services that are embedded in the work with the families, but also other departments and all the coordinators. I mean, the huge superstructure of the social services are making problems, giving problems to the and it's negative on the one side, and the other is positive. So I mean, if the parents are satisfied, are some interest. You notice, probably you notice that not all the contributors are here, because we perform collinearity analysis, and so we escape from that and we eliminate those components that are collinear. Well, here we have, that's the other results I want to present with the parental index, parenting stress index. we only got, you know that this questionnaire has 3 factors. Well, we got very, very nice results with 2 of them. Look at the 0.44, the explained variance of the pre-post results. Especially look at the negative part. Well, I have to explain for the ones who are not familiar with this, that this is a negative outcome. I mean, negative in this case means that the parents did not reduce enough their stress. So that is why it's negative. But a full dosage means that it's better in their case. So less, remember there is a paper that says less is more or something like that. In my case, it's not the case. You have to do the whole day long to reach this result. And also the appropriate duration of the sessions, something that you can consider as trivial, but it's important for that, because the people can become tired or things like that. So then that was good also for the perception of the difficult child and for dysfunctional interactions for the 2 of them. But it has nothing to do with the 3 factor, the rest of the other factor, which is parental distress factor. You know that is also in the questionnaire. But parental, my interpretation, but it's quite speculative, is that parental distress is a general state of the parent that has nothing to do with the childbearing topic itself. The important things to reduce the stress is the dysfunctional interaction. I feel that it's difficult to interact with my child, and also in general I found difficult my child. I find that I have to deal with a child that is really difficult. And so that is nice, that it happens that the components predict more the cases of changes in the reduction of the parenting stress, but has to do more with the task of parenting itself. But look at the participation, good, is a negative relationship, because we are talking about a negative outcome, good. But look at the whole motivation barriers. So almost this 21% of R change, R square change, is motivated for the last, well, not all, but for the last step, which is the coordination barrier. Because here I put only the solution, the third step solutions, not to overwhelm you. But here you see how negative is the adaptation to have rated adaptation barriers, organization barriers, coordination barriers. All of them are difficulties that have been suffering a lot, those participants, and it's a nice thing that it happens that there is a nice coincidence with the parent feeling in the sessions and also the professionals feeling in the sessions. I would say that is something, probably an interactive factor that has to do with the way they build a collaborative atmosphere, a positive and good collaborative atmosphere, or they have been totally disengaged on one hand and on the other hand. And so, I mean, the 2 of them, but means that the 2 sides of the coin are important, not only the parents, but also the practitioners. And that is very important, because we always think that the practitioners are happy with everybody, and they follow you wherever you want it to be. It's not true. They can be really resistant and suffering a lot of barriers. So that is a lesson to be learned. And then just a brief wrap of the results. Full dosage and good timing of the sessions clearly has a positive effect on the reducing and parenting stress. This, right? This is we have been saying, indicating the importance of adherence. Of course, that is the 2 typical measures of adherence. But participants' positive response and perception of fewer barriers, I put it in the other side, were related to a greater permanence in the program and a greater and a decrease in parenting stress. That was the main results. Well, my lesson in this case is that when we do the training part of the professionals, we have to help them to think about how to adapt the program to the context. because this is signaling the importance of the concept. We usually go directly to the program and tell them the theoretical foundation, tell them about the content, the objectives of the program, how to manage the program. But then the question is, how is the context in which the program will be placed? And then most of the obstacles came and then damaged a lot the results of the program. So after this trial, we did our best to introduce into the training a lot of thoughts about the conditions, that the real world conditions that it brings. Because here is where real world conditions is clearly portrayed. You see how they are the real world conditions because you see a lot of areas everywhere. And the practitioners that have experienced this, then you find out that they really, the results of the parents are poor. Well, and this is the other example of Educar en Positivo. We call it Positive Parent. It's a web page that we did in 2014. It's a web page program, and it's you see it's a web page, but inside the web page there are programs. There are several modules of programs allocated in a Moodle, and then in the Moodle you have a lot of components, I will tell you now, that gives, try to, well, somehow reproduce the space of the face-to-face program. I will tell you more now. The website has been there. Well, it's a spontaneous login. There is, and it's totally free and a spontaneous login. So here they came parents from Spanish-speaking countries all over the world, coming to do the program. And it has a lot of regular followers. And these are the 5 modules, and now we were testing 3 more. But we are in the really movement of renewing all the technical things, because you surely knows that the things that can be done in 2013 has nothing to do with what can be done now. In terms of the Moodle itself, that is a new version, but also in terms of the software that you put there to use or to have web-based activities, original video. We have original video clips. We have 200 illustrations. So, and every module can be done by itself, and is full of activities. It's very active in this sense. It's full of activities. And even it's equipped with a nice part, which is a forum, and also a diary to go and write down all the things that are thinking of during the program. So this is a component that enrich a little bit what can be found in other programs that goes totally just for doing activities, but not reflection part. Well, in this case, we have a big assignment because we accumulate for 2 years, 352, and they were from the intervention group, 192, and for visitor group. You say, what is that? Well, that was difficult to make because there are people that came to the program but do not get into the program itself, but they follow another track, just visiting or knowing about videos, about materials, about things, but without a structure. That is the critical point, because it's not fair to compare this with just going to PDF, horrible PDF, verbal PDF. It's not comparable. But if you try to go on multimodal environment, but in one case without a structure, in the other case fully following a structured program. And I cannot tell you now, but the results were clearly in favor of the structured one. But I am going to concentrate on the part of the participants that did the structured program. And in this case, well, just let you know that this is a universal program. But we had mothers came in, young mothers with young children, because it's the time where they are eager to know more about things. So And they have a good level of interaction, and also the internet experience. But we use these kind of variables. Didn't introduce any difference in the results. So there's not because of that. But of course, the sample is biased. But you see, we have done some studies on that. You see that there's a gender bias. The women, the men are again absent, although we are in a technical world that could be more akin to the men. No? And also young people are the ones who are there, not the older generations, and also good education level people. So that is the gender gap, the age gap, and the socioeconomic gap that is flourishing everywhere. Well, what asked here was what implementation components help to explain the link between the best results and the program satisfaction. And we put the components just inside as covariates. We use ANCOVA. That is another procedure. But as an independent variable, we did cluster analysis. So we send the participants to a different cluster depending on the level of achievement in all these measures. The measures emotionometer. One of you were presenting measures that were very, it was in one of the PATI projects, everyday measurement. Here, every time that they get into the web page, they were able to rate their level of satisfaction as a parent and also their mood as parent. And that is very nice because, and we got four points of these measures, and it's interesting because it go up, and it go in a way that it coincides more the feeling as a parent and the satisfaction as a parent. So so as soon as you go more into the program, then you become more integrated in your aptitudes and how you feel about your attitude. So you are more able to read the real stuff of your competences. But that is not for here. And we use another measurement we did for this occasion, that is online parental support, that have different scales, because we wanted to go into a long questionnaire, because this is embedded into the program. So you do not have to go out for doing this. So we didn't want to have a long list of questionnaires that you get out of the spirit of the. And then also as a program satisfaction, we had to do also another measure concerning 3 factors: usability, content, and parenting impact. These are measures that are also already. And what about the covariates? What about the implementation in this case? We have three types of self-implementation measures that has to do with the connection time, of course, easy to register in the platform, with the connection duration, any time that I go into the program, how much time I spend, program duration in general. I didn't say that the program is about 8 hours for each module, but this is just the result for one module. So, and then you have, that is the interesting part of the research, and because we include self-engagement program activities, and we see to what extent they participate in the forum. The forum, there were not open forums for people everywhere. It were only for the people that were doing the program. The forum, a diary use, and inside the diary use, we look at to what extent they make a commitment in terms of going and transferring the knowledge into the real life. So I think that the homework, I don't like at all, the idea of doing a homework. It's better to help them to do the transfer, So take a piece, the one you wanted, and then transfer to the daily life. And then tell me, in the diary, in the same diary, Next time, what goes on? What happened with this trial, with this attempt? It doesn't matter whether the attempt is finally ended in a positive achievement. What is important is just to try to bring the program learning into the daily life, into the home life. That is, I think it's more interesting than just giving them home work, like if they were children. That is really boring and stressful. I don't think it makes sense. And then here is the results, just coming to my end. You got satisfaction here on the first left, from 1 to 5, usability, content, and parenting. And here you have the clusters. It's interesting because you see that the programs work well for the group 3 and the group 4. Well, we say total when all the dimensions of the outcomes has positive results. And we say positive, and then has the results. And then positive if the result is positive or is negative. So we name the clusters with this. And so 3 or 4, that means 34 and 55, not so much. But it's the majority of them has benefit. But still, I use 34 of cluster 1 with partial mixed changes. That can be also, some of them were not in a good directions. And also in cluster 2, 25, total mixed changes. Total means in every dimension there were changes. But what is interesting is that we did planet contrast, which is very easy to be done in the satisfaction measure. And we see that always 3 and 4 groups, that is the ones who did better into the program, are the ones who really are happy or more happy or more satisfied with the program. So it's not the case that the people or the parents frivolously in a free way say, oh, I'm satisfied, I'm not satisfied. Here we found a close relationship between doing better and being more satisfied with the program, which is, I like, because then I think that the people are making sense of what they have learned or not. But what is significant, what is interesting is as covariate, we include every time 1, of course, not to oversaturate the covariation. We include 1, and then 1, and then 1. Here, one after the other. And only this covariates connection duration. And the number of time, or the frequency of using the forum, the frequency of using the direct, and of course, using the direct and the other one, the commitment, the made commitment, that's the one who really helps to explain the relationships between, or the contribution of the having done having obtained a good records in the program, and at the same time being satisfied. You know, that is a connection, and inside we put the components, in this case. So you can play in other ways. In other cases, we did latent cluster analysis, latent profile, and then we can use then probabilities of belongingness to a cluster 1, cluster 2, and then we can enter into a more moderator analysis or whatever. But in this case, we did it in this way. Well, then the results, just to come to an end, the implementation in the online modality also matters. That is good news, because you think, well, in online thing, everything is under the control of the designer or under control of the participants. Who is in fact in the control? But of course, you have to be creative enough to identify new components. And I heard this expression, I read this expression in one of the papers I read before doing this research. In-person, let's say, in-person components in online programs, but are in-person in the sense that promote social exchanges, and are in-person in the sense that promote self-reflexive component. You see, the making of commitment. That is good, because then teach the designers the importance of producing really creating a rich atmosphere. But imagine the people that in these platforms are not strange artificial things, are human beings. And they like the interactions, and they take benefit in the learning process, and also they like and they use the reflection process if they have intended to do so. If they are not intended, there is no things. So then I think it's better that components can help, at least in our study, to promote probably more awareness on the learning process, not just following one activity after the other. Just my conclusions, I think the multi-site, multi-setting trials, which is the cases I was using a variety of components and methods. Of course, this is the wonderful word. I'm putting the wonderful word. Different outcomes, of course, and multivariate approach is the best way to test your implementation research. That's the golden formula. Probably you do not have multi-site or you know that, but multi-site and multi-setting, what does is increasing the variability. And statistics is always something to do with variability. And if you do not promote variability in the settings, then that is not informative. All the settings doing the same, of course we are calling for fidelity. Remember that we are trying to implement with fidelity, and it's okay. For instance, look at fidelity in terms of duration, in terms of dosage, in terms of many other things. But then, when you are in the testing moment, you need variability. Otherwise, you do not have information. Information comes from variability. So that's my first thing. And then knowing the best implementation conditions, that's good. But for whom it works more? I'm more inclined for using clusters, because then you do not have the artificial thing of being everybody taking benefit, everybody doing badly. No, not at all with that. I mean, there is a lot of circumstances, and the people, not all the people can gain. And this didn't say anything negative for your program. Not. It gives the conditions for your program for working well. So this is not the type of profile that it goes better with the program. Well, this is information. I can go in the next trial and say, well, no, this type of profile is not good for this. And that is good for you to be true with this. So that is very important. Best implementation conditions to whom and for which outcomes. That is another matter. Not go just on one outcome. Go into several outcomes, because you see that sometimes it works for one outcome, some for others. Interpretations are quite speculative, I must say. It's not, I mean, but it learns. I mean, you learn from that. And also, my last point is, I think it's more, I would say, more innovative from my point of view, but you mentioned something related to that implementation work is not only to know that the program works well and what are the best conditions for your program, but it's also, it can give you an interesting information on the process of change. And that is good. That is good. But you need then to have components that can be sensible for that. And can be do in the programs in ICT and in the other programs. But you need, and on my experience, these two components, social exchanges, and most of them, self-reflection, promote the self-reflections, are two important components of learning in complex scenarios. In learning in complex scenarios, that mean learning complex things, learning beliefs, emotions, how to integrate all of this in a new feeling of being father or mother. So, and then I think that is informative, to use implementation research for knowing more about the process of change and what would be the ingredients, following also the Patty presentation, what would be the ingredients for the efficacy. Well, thank you for all. Just I put some references. The red ones are the ones who are developed here. and they are open access.
Any questions from Alexa? I have to comment myself.
Of course.
Someone wants to talk. And from this morning when Metin was also talking about implementation, I like the way that you both formulate, because Metin also referred to that. Sometimes when we have this program approach, it seems that we try to control the environment. And what I like from the implementation side, so research perspective, is that you realize that implementation, the context is not only complex but dynamic and so on and so on. So I like this conceptual view of the context. Something that has not been present today, but I think some of the reflection of the posters, and I don't have an answer, but I think it's a next step for us, is assuming that even we are advancing a lot on the implementation components that are relevant, we are talking about this program only alone. And when we are talking about particularly complex families or at-risk families, we know that they are multi-level assisted, or I don't like the word, but you know, that they are receiving several interventions. So it seems to be, well, we were talking, I think you said about this puzzle, no? That we are composing this puzzle as researchers, but I don't see the light. That's the reason I say this so I don't make it so optimistic, because it's so difficult that you get, even not only when, and you are looking at the programs and you are realizing so many components that we have to keep in mind, but all those barriers that you have been reporting on are related to the context, as you say.
Yes.
So what's going on in the organization?
Exactly.
What else is going on also with the families and
Exactly.
the organization? And we talk about family context from the transactional, ecological, systemic views, but this is also working with the programs and the interaction with the context. So it's so embedded, so complex, so interactive at the same time.
Exactly.
So what is the light?
No, I mean, it's just a track, as I told you before. It cannot be done in a single trial. What I learned is you have to make a piece work and pursuing a specific and clear-cut goal for each case. You cannot do, well, this is all we have done, and 100,000. No, you have to pursue what is the golden thing that you can find out. Here, my golden thing was to see that in the end, in-person components still matters in ICT environments, that you see a while, it's a magic thing that makes us robots that we learn everything. Well, of course, it's an exaggeration. But here it says the humans interacting with the machine and taking benefit of the human machinery and the brains, the way they learn in everyday learning, and the way they try to complement the learning process with others, and at the same time to thinking, getting into insight and doing a self-reflective component, which is at the base of all the self-regulations, all the things we are searching for. The capacity of making this instant, this golden instant of self-reflection in the diary, I think it was one of the best thing we did in this platform. The best thing, and we did it because we got this facility. We say, well, let's get a little bit closer to the face-to-face, because we were coming from face-to-face program, and it was for us terrible to take away all the human flavor that exists, and we knew that it worked. And so I think the challenge now is to be able to create platforms and procedures with all the new facilities we got, but trying to capture the essentials of the human development, that at the end we are the same. We are social people. We need this process. Self-repression, I noticed that self-repression is fundamental in complex learning. We cannot say that I have done this, and now I will do this, and that's all. I come to my home, and that is all. That is stupid. I mean, it's just very complex to enter in the family life. You are changing habits, you are changing values, you are changing many things. So you have to consider as a complex scenario of learning. And if you consider in that way, then you be more respectful of what has been using the human beings from the very beginning. And as another feature of this complex scenario is that you have to make converge what you think about your competence and your real competences. Because you have a lot of distortions, a lot of distance between what you think about your self-competence and what you really are good at. And this kind of self-reflection helps to merge the two things and then to have a more integrative knowledge and commanding on the task you have to face. That you have a distorted feeling of I am such a good and then I doing terrible things. So this kind of coherence, also in integrative effort to do the parenting task, this is the change from the automatic parenting and the conscious parenting takes this part, this idea of getting a real command, not just reproducing recipes, but just taking the command and making sense of it in your own world and in your own family. That is much more difficult than just teaching techniques of practice. It's much more ambitious, but I think it makes more sense for the human lives. That is my idea.
Any other questions?
Sorry, can you speak?
Instead of have a single format or to have a straight fidelity to our implementation, we have variability. Of course, it will be enriching, but then we will face other problems. That is like the enrollment of participants, because probably we need a larger sample size to compare multiple variants. This is, I don't know, it's a topic that I think we must, it was not fully explored, like this problem of the involvement of participants, because it's very difficult in programs that are very long, like for example, I'm implementing a program that have 17 weeks of intervention sessions, like 14 sessions, and it's very difficult to maintain the parents and to enroll to do the assessment.
It's true. It's true. But the duration depends on the kind of topic you are tackling. For learning routines or learning techniques, I think it could be made shorter. But for this kind of change that are changing the way you deal with parenting tasks and the way you move the resources around, for instance, social networks, for the way I envision my task, then I think you need more time, because it takes time. You see that the best results were when the 22 sessions, well, not all the sessions, there were some sessions for evaluation, but it takes time. 20 sessions to get all the parents in 20 sessions, of course, is a challenge. And also to use a lot of measurement, of course, is a challenge. It's a challenge. People can get totally fed up with that, I know. But if you want to go driving a good car, you need you need to go up, and it's good when you go to meet the people that has been giving you the opportunity of doing this trial or doing this program. It's very good that you help them to understand that what they are telling to you have to be added and completed with the let's say, the interval I need to do good research, to convey this in a good academic research. Because they came, of course, I just want that these parents have, I always work, well, first in my career, I work with a knocking at the door system. Do you like this? Do it now. Well, I have all my wounds on my back on that. But then, finally, one day, I heard a ring, and it was from the Castilla and Leon, it was from the Asturias, it was from the other. Well, and then I had, well, if they want me, I have to put the conditions. The conditions have to do with that, because I made a program for you. I made a program for your needs, but then I can tell you what I need as an academical people for reaching the standards of good results. Because I am academic. I'm sorry, but I am academic. And if you want me, I cannot come selling you smoking and selling you stupid things, because I know I am had the rigor of the academic in my mind, and I don't want to be not trustful. And then I always ask for something else. I want this. Well, to perform this, you need this, but what about that? It's very important, because then in this case we can know that, and then you, because sometimes they do not ask you for more because they do not know. But it has to be proactive. Filling your track, Andy. You have to be proactive. And if you are lucky that they ring the bell for you, then you can go. And you can just say, no, I'm not interested. Well, bye-bye. I can go to any other place. But I do not want to be part of a trial that does not have the guarantee. Of course, never can have the full guarantee, of course. But at least the kind of guarantee that I think I can ask is very important to let them know. And so that is, my answer is like this. Complexity is like it is. But of course, not always can deal with all complexity at the same time. For this reason, I like every time we had the opportunity to test a program, to have a special commitment with something. In this case, I'm going to do it the most of my best for that. And when we came to the ICT, we say, well, I am not an ICT person. I think that human beings are still human beings, as far as I know. So let me introduce some things that I think that they will work. And that was my compromise with engineers and all the people telling me, yeah, we can do that, we can do that. Well, of course, that would be great, but please let me put some sensitive things inside. And that was that.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.